Hi, Beth.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to another video. In this video, I'm talking with Beth Marshall, a senior test engineer at Smoothwall. Beth is someone I met online, and she is one of the most kind and supportive persons in the testing community. She's always a ray of sunshine. She's always having nice, encouraging words to say, just to encourage you and keep you going and provide you with positive feedback in your journey. In our conversation today, we speak about our journey into tech, into testing. We have two different paths, however, we ended up both doing testing. So stick around for that. It's very interesting, the different journey and paths that we have taken to now be where we are at. We also fangirl a bit about the awesome Angie Jones, rightfully so, as she is just an incredible person in the testing development space that is always sharing her knowledge and contributing to the community. We also go a bit into how we have been dealing with COVID, working remotely, attending conferences remotely, and how that whole experience have been for us. It's an interesting conversation. Stick around. Let me know what you think in the comment below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Enjoy. Hi, Beth.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it's really nice to be talking with you again. You've been really lovely. So
Oh, same. Yeah.
I'm always excited to talk to you.
Yeah, it's always nice at the end of a really busy day, isn't it, to just de-stress and just have a nice conversation with a nice positive person.
Yeah. You've been really supportive of people and it's in the community, and it's really nice to see. So thank you for that.
You do. I think it really makes you stand out when you're seen as someone positive
and sincere.
Yeah, because you're the person that people really want when you're in a talk, and pushing yourself to do public speaking and things, as you know, is not easy.
It isn't.
It takes a bit of nerve, and it's really nice to have someone in your corner that you know is kind of rooting for you. So I do try and people have been kind to me, so I always try and pay that forward if I can.
Yeah.
And I know you and I both have kind of Angie Jones to thank for a lot.
Yeah. She's amazing.
A hero of mine. Did you see she won the Agile TD award last night?
Yes, that was. I mean, she's so deserving of that. So that's really great.
Really,
that was really good to see.
I was almost in tears. As bad as that sounds, I was so pleased for her because she worked hard.
Yeah, she does. So that was a really good thing to see on the timeline yesterday. I was like, okay, yes. So it's the little moments, because despite all that's going on, it's the little moments like these that kind of like makes you like, okay, there's still something to be happy and positive about.
Yeah, I think there's lots, I think sometimes it's easy to get bogged down with the negative side of things, and you have to really look for the little nuggets of gold sometimes and really celebrate them. I agree. And I think definitely for me, as someone who has tried to push themselves out of their comfort zone in a few areas this year, the fact that everybody is online, the fact that I can be talking to you in Jamaica, and that's it's not really a big deal, it's just a Zoom call. That's awesome. That's really, really cool.
So there has been opportunities opened up because of COVID. So yeah, I'm able to now to go to conferences without normally, if I'm going to speak at Tech Bash, then I'm going to have to get a visa to go to the UK. Now exactly. I can just like go on a call And I'm there.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, there's so many more opportunities as well, because everyone's wanting to be online, and all the big conferences, the in-person side is cancelled. They've all still stayed open online. Mm-hmm. Just means that more people can come and learn, and it's really a lovely thing having that testing community that are so open. I think it's great.
And not just speaking at conferences, but attending them. You're like, okay, I can see how this can fit without having to think about how long does it take to go on a plane to get there and stuff. It's like, okay, I just need to roll over, maybe stop what I'm doing for a minute, and then just hop on. So it makes it really convenient.
So true. I was listening to Agile TD today from my bed, the comfort of my bed, watching various things. You don't need to go from room to room, and there isn't that awkward, who do I sit next to if you go on your own? And there's lots of really I love it. I think it's great.
So with all this talk of speaking at conferences, how did you decide that, okay, I want to submit a paper and speak at a conference? Like, what was the moment for you that was like, I'm going to decide and I'm going to do this?
Well, I think I've probably got coronavirus to thank, really. The start of this year was a really crazy, tumultuous time for a lot of people. And I really felt that I wanted to do something else when I'm just at home anyway. I wanted to push myself to do something else. So I started public speaking this time last year, actually, was when I did my first one. And I did it in November, but it was my New Year's resolution from the previous year. So the 1st of January, I said, I will try public speaking. And I just couldn't think of anything to say. I didn't think I had anything that anyone would want to listen to, or really I could teach anybody anything. And then in November, I decided to do a lightning talk, and it kind of progressed from there, right? You sort of do one, you think, oh, actually, maybe this is something that people want to hear, and maybe you don't have to be a complete expert to be able to be relatable to people. So I definitely think the pandemic has opened up lots of doors, like you say, to aspiring public speakers to get opportunities to talk at big events. So yeah, I guess that was the catalyst for me. But you've had a very similar kind of journey in terms of pushing yourself to public speaking, although you've got this awesome glistening cherry on top that you've got a TAU course, which is the coolest thing. I'm like a Test Automation University proper super fan, and I think I've got about 3 or 4 courses that I'm in the process of trying to complete at the minute, including yours. So tell me how that all came about for you, the Test Automation University stuff.
Yeah, so Angie works with, or she knows my boss at QualityWorks, and she reached out and said that she's looking for some instructors for different topics. I was like, can I do this? I've been working with the tool for years, but am I able to teach persons how to use the tool? And I had just done an internal course where I had taught other persons the tool, but this was going to be like an international thing where persons are going to be critiquing what I have to say, and they're going to be trusting me to teach them the right thing. So it was a decision that I was like, okay, I think I can do it. And then working with Angie, she's very supportive, helping you get the curriculum right, all the things that she's looking for, reviewing it. And then amazing thing that they have on the platform is that they transcribe everything that you say. So it's not just the video portion, they actually go and they transcribe, and it's done really well. So
they do that for you?
Yeah, so they transcribe it for you. So all the courses on Test Automation University are transcribed, which is really good because sometimes you learn better by reading, or you miss something, you can always go back and just read it instead of watching the entire video again. So I find it really useful. And
Yeah.
just doing that kind of gave me the confidence of like, okay, that wasn't so bad. It's like getting the first one or the first thing out the way kind of gives you a push to say, all right, if I did that, and I can do more. So,
Yeah.
and the feedback was really great. There were a lot of persons reaching out to me and telling me that the course really helps them. So that kind of
That's so nice.
gave me a boost as well. So yeah, that's how it
So
started.
the course was on Selenium WebDriver, right?
WebDriver IO, yeah.
WebDriver IO. And how long have you been kind of interested in that side of things and learning about it?
Well, from early on. So I started working my final year of university, and I started out with Night Watch, and then I went to WebDriver IO. So it's been around 5 years since I've been working with the tool and in that space. So yeah, it's been a while.
But isn't it lovely though when people get in touch to say you've helped?
Yes, it is.
That's such a motivation to think, okay, it's made a difference to somebody. Like it's lovely.
Because there's always this voice in your head that's like telling you to doubt yourself and doubt your abilities. But there are amazing people like you and others in the community that are like, I've seen your stuff and what you're doing is really good. And they encourage you to continue doing more and moving forward. So it's a really good feeling.
And I found that the fear side of it is really the only thing to be afraid of, right? So you worry. In my head, I was worried that there would just be this tsunami of people saying, that's not right, you're wrong, you're stupid, what are you doing? And actually, they were only in my head, those voices.
Yeah.
When you do it, people want you to succeed. They really are cheering you on and they want you to do well. And I think you've just got to get over your own inner saboteur and push through it. And then the more that you do it, the more you can listen to the positive feedback. Because sometimes it doesn't register. If there's one tiny criticism, it's like, okay, it's all awful.
You focus on that instead of all the other positives that are out there. So
yeah. But the positives massively, massively outweigh the negatives. And then it's really kind of, I don't know if you've looked back on, say, the past 12 months when you've been really pushing yourself and doing all of these amazing, cool things, and sort of reflecting on the impact that's had on you personally, maybe your career. Have you noticed any difference from the things you've been doing?
Yeah, it given me more confidence. Like in my everyday task, I'm like, okay, I know this now, so I feel more confident when I'm answering persons or if persons have questions and they're asking me. And it's opened doors. So I didn't really, after I did the course on test automation university, I took a break for a year. I didn't really apply to speak anywhere else until this summer, which was like 4 or so months ago. So after I did that, I started to get asked to do AMAs with Test Bash, which was like a complete surprise. So it opens doors for you once it is that you've decided to do the first one and you put yourself out there. It's like it then just picks up steam like a roller coaster, just going over and over again. So yeah, I realized
I love your Twitter like headline where it's like, I'm a blogger, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a speaker. And it's like, yeah, you are. You really are, because you've got, a YouTube channel and there's fantastic stuff on there and it's available to everybody. And that's what I love about TAU, right? The fact that it's such a trusted resource. It's been quality checked, it's correct, you can rely on it. And it's really nice when people are willing to give their experience for free, for other people to learn. I just think it's so cool.
And they're passionate about it too. It's like something that they spend their time, and it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time to even do a 5-minute video. It may take half hour because you're overthinking it. You have to edit it properly. You have to get all of the little and long spaces out, so it takes time. So kudos to them, and I'm really thankful and appreciative of everyone that has decided that they want to contribute to the community in that way. It's really great.
So, quick question then, based on that. What's your preferred kind of format for speaking? Do you prefer doing live talks, or would you rather do a pre-record where you can record it over and get rid of the ums and hms?
So when I speak, I don't naturally say a lot of but I say other words that may not jump out to you as much. So for me, it's just practicing. So I haven't really done a lot of live talks since I've started, like since June. I've mostly done pre-recorded. I do have a live one coming up though in December that
Nice.
apart from the Test Bash AMA, it will be like my first live. But the Test Bash AMA live was good. It's like more free flowing. So there's like pros and cons to each. I don't really have a favorite one that I'm going to be like, I'll do this all the time. Because you get that energy when you're doing it live from the persons that are there and the chat and all of that. You're now here where you're giving talks, but how did you get started in testing? Like, what was your journey?
So I've been testing now for over 12 years, and like most testers really, I didn't know there was a thing called testing. I didn't know what it was. My degree was in law, it was not in technology at all. My strategy, so I come from quite a kind of lower class, working class area where there wasn't a lot of job security growing up, and the expectation was that I was going to get a job in a bar, or I didn't set myself a lot of high expectations really. All I wanted to do was to go to university. The only life goal I've ever had, and I pushed myself to do that, and I did it. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I wanted was to make the most money I could in the next job, and the next job, and the next job. So I just wanted to be financially secure on my own 2 feet. That was really important to me. I didn't want to be reliant on anybody else. I didn't want to marry someone with money and be reliant on that. I wanted my own, everything my own. So my working strategy in the early years was just, what can I do that pays the most money? And for me, that was just kind of administrative work, like project coordination, working with Excel, and I could touch type, so things that involved typing. I did all sorts, right? I bet you were the same. I did do bar work. I worked in a factory. I was a school dinner lady at one point. I had lots of crazy, silly jobs. And then I happened to be working as an administrator, a project coordinator for a tech consulting company. And it was a case of right place, right time. Mm-hmm. They needed, they basically had hired some people to write a lot of test scripts for, it was actually a foreign exchange trading platform that at the time was responsible for 50% of the world's global FX trading. So it was kind of a big deal. And they'd hired some testers to write test scripts for the client to explain how we test their software. Back in the days before exploratory testing was a thing, everything had to be scripted to the letter. And these guys hadn't really done a very good job. They were a bit sloppy. The detail wasn't right. The spelling wasn't so good. So basically they needed somebody who could string a sentence together to look at these tests and rewrite them. Mm-hmm. And I could do that. I could do that. And so I spent 3 months in a room, probably not much bigger than this tiny room that I'm in now, with 3 smelly men. They weren't that smelly, but we were all packed in a room in the middle of summer, just rewriting probably about 2,000 test scripts.
Wow.
During that time, I started to ask questions about the product. Oh, well, this test script said that this should do this, so why doesn't this test script do that? And I think they decided to take a chance on me, and they said, "What would you like to start to test the product?" And I just have a kind of what's the word? A thing in life where I think it's good to say yes to opportunities when they come knocking at your door. And so I always try and say yes, unless there's a really good reason not to. And I just said yes. And then I kept on saying yes and yes and yes. And then
here you are.
here I am, yeah. So I worked there for 8 years, various roles, test lead, test manager, worked out in New York very, very briefly, worked in London, worked in lots of great, silly places. And didn't stop saying yes. So that's how I got there. But I wish more people knew about the testing industry, because I think it does a real disservice to people. When I think of the people that from my hometown, they wouldn't know this was a thing, but it's a really lucrative and safe and amazing job to be in.
Yeah,
and just wish more people knew about testing. How about you? What was your journey like? Because you were down the degree technical route, right?
Yeah, I did. But just to add to what you're saying, I think what you're doing now by going to conferences, those same persons who maybe knew you when you were growing up, you can be that avenue to introduce them to this world of testing and a different way to get into tech. You don't have to be super technical, as we like to call it. You don't have to write code all the time. There's a different avenue to make more and to be impactful just by being a tester. So yeah. Well, for me, I did the route of doing a degree in computer science. I loved programming, and that was like, for me, an avenue out. Tech was going to be paying more, it was growing, so it's going to be better job stability, etc. So when I was choosing, like, oh, do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a lawyer? I didn't really like sciences, and I couldn't imagine interacting with people all the time in a courtroom and stuff like that. So I was like, no. And then I did in high school a course on information technology, and at the time I learned Pascal, and I was like, wow,
right. Oh wow,
I love this. Like, can I make money off this? Like, okay, because everybody was at the time was like, you need to start thinking about your career. So I'm like, okay, I love Pascal at the time. I liked what it was doing. Is there a career in this? And I did some research. There was a university offering computer science. I found out it was a thing, but I still didn't know that testing was a thing until maybe my third year of university. I was walking upstairs and I saw an internship offering on the wall. I was like, this looks interesting. So I applied and I got the internship. And then 5 years later, here I am. I'm still at that same place because it's an amazing company. CultureWorks is amazing. And that's where I got introduced to testing. That's where I got introduced to all these amazing tools, test automation, performance testing, all of those things that I was like, sure, when you're writing your projects in school, you do a bit of testing, but you didn't really think of it as a job. You just thought of it as like, okay, I do this. And as a user on your applications, you're actually testing it when you're using it. The same steps that you take, the same things that annoy you when they don't work right, those are all things that you bring into the space. And those are all things that you have to test out. You have to ensure that it's going to work well for the user and that the usability of it and the accessibility of it is all good and well. So it's like there are different avenues. So your avenue was, you came from a law background. I went straight from computer science with a different field in mind, maybe doing more development. But testing is like inclusive, because everything, every journey that you've gone through can be applicable to testing. You, by doing law, you're able to read and proofread and understand certain technical law terms that I may not be able to. So you have that strength, you know, like,
you'd be surprised.
So, because if I look at a law document, I'm going to be like, ooh, this is not English. It's like, it's law terminology. So having all of those different backgrounds is anyone can get into it. You don't have
That's
to
right.
go and do a degree like I did. You can.
And actually, at the moment, there is a real push, I feel, for having different perspectives and having diversity. And that is encouraged, not only encouraged for you to go and look for opportunities, but for opportunities to find you. You know, have people have riders where they won't come to conferences if it's all white middle class men speaking. They want, you know, there are more opportunities for people like you and me than there used to be 10 years ago. I certainly, like, I don't know if you find the same thing, but sometimes when I think back to some of the jobs that I've done, I think, how can I get paid for this? How can I be getting paid to do this? Like, to have so much fun, you know, to use your brain and to work with people who are really like-minded and really interesting. And, you know, I just love it. I'm so pleased that this luck was kind of on my side when someone said, oh, why don't we get Beth to look at that, you know? And it was just good fortune, and then hard work. And I think it does take hard work.
It does.
Of what background you come from, you have to be prepared to graft. And arguably, I think having a mindset of being prepared to work for what you get is more important than almost anything else, because you can learn everything if you have a growth mindset and you apply yourself and put the effort in. And I've certainly found that with my kind of automation journey. So I wasn't from a coding background, and I saw that was where the market was going, and more jobs seem to must have automation on the job requirement. And I thought, there is going to be no job for me in a few years' time if I don't adapt. And you have to be prepared to do that, because technology will not stand still.
It doesn't. You're always learning. There's always something new to learn. But I think if you know the foundations, then you're kind of set to jump and to learn, because most things that are new are just tools. So tools that become new, but the same principles of testing, and then you can't test everything. You have to create different test cases for this. And manual testing will never go away, because to do automated tests, you have to do manual exploratory testing. So there's always going to be that, and having that background and that knowledge is always going to be helpful to move on to doing test automation. Test automation is a tool, is a framework, but the same principles of being able to test and create proper test cases and find bugs are still going to be used in that avenue.
Definitely, I agree.
So we're in COVID, and you recently did 100 tester stories of life in lockdown. So tell me a bit about that, and from that, what advice do you have for companies and testers in the new normal?
Good question. So yes, at the start of all of this, so back in March, I remember it really vividly. Our CEO huddled everybody around, and we'd heard the coronavirus thing, and we were all a bit curious about it, but it was is it going to be a big deal? Is it not going to be a big deal? And he said, we need to trial working from home, because lockdown is coming and we'll be working from home for a while. Most of the company were used to working from home anyway, so it actually hasn't been that bad a journey. And I think tech has been able to weather the storm and actually move forward in a lot of really positive ways in a real short space of time. But I started going to more, when I was working from home, I started going to more conferences and talks and all of this stuff. And I thought, why is no one talking about this enormous elephant in the room that is coronavirus. Like, why is no one mentioning it? Like, I know there's still going to be tools and there's still going to be testing and there's still going to be all this stuff, but I was really worried about losing my job. And, you know, my colleagues or people that I knew, I was worried about them losing their jobs. And I was curious how lockdown had impacted other testers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear anybody else really trying to get to the bottom of why how the ways that that's happened. So I decided to do a survey, just a little online survey that I put on, you know, social media and stuff. But eventually 100 people answered the questions in this survey. And, you know, it was more qualitative rather than quantitative.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that I could draw that were quite interesting statistics. So a lot of people had been furloughed. This was only in the UK, but a lot of people had been furloughed. A lot of people had reduced salaries. A lot of people had not been able to find their next contract. Contractors have been hit really hard in this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were really worried. It's, you know, the effect on stress. I could tell particularly there were some respondents who were talking about the impact of trying to keep their family life going, keep the kids who were off school, keep them occupied and also work.
Mm-hmm.
And just feel the waves of stress resonating off these responses. But what I learned that surprised me were the number of positive stories. So I guess when I went into it, I was expecting everyone to be like, oh, lockdown's awful and it's changed everything and, you know, life will never be the same and things. And there were people that felt like that. But there were lots of people that were saying, wow, this home working's amazing. And, oh, I don't need to spend 3 hours going to work every day. I'm just here. I've spent that time on learning and I do more exercise and my mental health has improved and my work have been so fantastic and there's more opportunities now. Everyone wants to use a website. Suddenly the whole world's gone online because they have to. And there were a bunch more opportunities for people that I didn't really see coming. And it was a real 50-50 split. That was the main takeaway, I think, that for some people it was hard, but for some people there was a real opportunity there. So yeah, it was interesting. And someone has said, would you repeat the same survey like later now or maybe after next spring when hopefully things will start to improve, to see? Because I don't know about you, but I think particularly with home working, so where I work, Smoothwall, they've said we won't be going back to the office. They've actually handed the notice in on the office because they said they surveyed the staff and the staff said we really like working from home.
Yeah.
They're just going to get a much smaller office space that people can just use as a meeting hub when everything's cleared up. But once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, people will go and meet up and have a chat. And I think that sort of hybrid approach is the way that a lot of companies are moving.
Yeah.
I'm embracing it massively. I think it's awesome. How has it been with the different working styles and things?
Not much has changed because, like you, there were times when we would work remote, so work from home, like maybe 3 days out of the week or 2 days out of the week. So now it's just all the time. But what we've done as a company is we have more meetings where we play games together, that kind of stuff. So we recently had some trivia games that we were asking on our last meeting yesterday. So that was really fun. Everybody was enjoying that, into that. So it kind of still have that feeling of family and community and keeping everyone close, checking in. on people become more important now, because there are persons that have children and other persons that they have to care for, and that it can be a lot when it's all in the one space. You have work, you have family, you have home life, all in that one space. So it's just thinking of them and trying to see how the activities that you do, it can include them while still being mindful of all the responsibilities that you now have at home. Is like, how do you get away from being at work all the time when your work environment is now your home? So it's just finding that balance where you have to still take your lunchtime, you have to still take a break, you have to set a time to start and a time to end, so that because you can get caught up in just doing all the work because you're fearful that if you don't do it well, you're going to lose your job because they may downsize because of loss of income or something like that. But you still have to have that work-life balance, and you still have to take care of your mental health. So it's all really a balancing game, but it's going really well for me so far, working from home, because there's just more opportunities really with the talking space and putting out more videos, less commuting. So yeah,
I definitely think this is where some exceptional companies have really stepped up their game. So they have been the best companies in tech, and there's some examples that I can think of. So Sage, so you guys, a few others have really taken care of their employees in a way that I think make people have a lot of loyalty towards that company and want to stick around. And they've really shown a lot of empathy and care, I think. My boss was saying today, I was reading about walking meetings. So instead of having all of your meetings at your desk, try and take your mobile, go for a walk, have the meeting over your phone, get some exercise, like think of things, little things like that you can do to just switch it up a bit, just not get so embroiled in I'm at home all day and my
change of scenery.
yeah definitely. So I think again it's another space where I'm so thankful that I work in tech, because wow, if I'd have stayed working at that record store, my life would have looked very different.
Some of the wonderful things that may seem simple that I've seen companies do. So for example, my company, if you want an office chair, you can get an office chair, because you may not have that set up at home. So giving stipends for you to be able to get a proper desk, or the monitor that you used to use in the office, you can now use it at home. Little stuff like that, just to give persons the resources that they really need, have been really good.
Thinking about the positives, would you say, have there been any sides that when life gets back to normal, you will look forward to having back?
But for me, looking at after COVID, I want to travel. So getting out, being able to travel is something that I'm looking forward to, and actually interacting with the persons at the office and bonding and all of that. That's something that I'm really looking forward to as well. And all those persons that have lost their jobs, getting back some income and being able to go back to what we were used to in terms of being able to provide for your family, having work life separate from home, being able to come home. And homeschooling is really difficult for a lot of persons right now. So having school or reopen and having children being able to learn in a really safe environment is some of the things that I'm looking forward to.
I think we'll definitely value education a lot more than perhaps we did. I think that we took for granted that now we'll be so much more grateful for. So you mentioned traveling more. So would that include traveling to conferences when they start opening back up?
Yeah. So once it's safe and extremely safe, we're 100% sure that everything is good. And I think having that experience would be nice. Building those communities, building that bonds, that personal relationship with people that have been supporting you, meeting you, in person. So
Yeah.
those are just some things to look forward to, actually meeting, having a firm handshake, a hug with someone in real life. That's something to look forward to.
It's funny because I went to Test Bash Manchester, the Ministry of Testing event, back in 2018 when Angie was speaking, and I really didn't know anyone there. I'd gone on my own. I chatted to a few people, but I really didn't know anyone, and I could see that there were lots of people there that were seeing people that they'd not seen for a long time, but that they knew.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. They were all like, it was so nice that they were back together again. But I didn't know anyone. But now I've kind of got more involved. But like you say, it's all been online. I go to my next conference, I'm going to be like, I know you from Twitter, and I know you from that thing. And I was at a conference with you and I've never met you, and it'll be great. I'm so excited to do that.
Yeah. So that's something to look forward to, that personal connection. You can try over the internet, but there's a certain thing that in person gives you that, we can't really recreate. So yeah.
Although the thought of actually getting on stage at a conference like that does terrify me a little. That feels a lot out of my comfort zone, really. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit getting out of your head, because you're going to have a lot of persons looking up at you. While if you're doing it over the internet, you're just looking at your screen and maybe you see the chat, but you're not really like feeling the full effect of the hundreds of persons looking at you
and
at
it's
once.
also just your face, right? So when you're on a video screen, you get to control what people see, but when there's no camera there, it gets, there's no filter.
Yeah, it's just that. But I think it will be great. So speaking about community, you have been doing a lot. You've been doing 99-minute talks. You've been talking about your blog. You recently did a YouTube video when you had a problem and you couldn't really seem to solve it. Once you solved it, you quickly threw together a YouTube video that I thought was just really inspiring and great. How do you balance all of those things that you're doing right now?
Well, I think we're the two of us are probably quite similar in this regard, because you've been doing a bunch. I just see your name everywhere now. I'm like, Julia, Julia, yeah, well, she's there too, and she's doing that conference too. It's awesome. But I think when you were talking earlier about when you did the WebDriver IO course, you just took a break afterwards, and I think that is what I need to remember, because it's sometimes snowballs, right? So you get asked one thing and then you get asked to do another and another and another, and before you know it, you can be a little bit overwhelmed. And I find it as a kind of natural, more of an introvert than an extrovert, so I get really nervous about presenting, and I can lose sleep, and even for little things, like I did a talk at our all hands meeting, and it's people that I know, it's people that I work with, and I'm still thinking, you get the fear. And I think it's good to have that balance between pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and having goals to try and do more things that scare you, I guess. Yeah. So knowing it's okay to say no. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to say I've got too much on to do these things. But like the little thing with the video, I was just mindful that I had literally spent hours trying to get something to work. So this was So inspired by Angie, we are talking about her a lot. I hope her ears are burning. But she put this post out months and months back, all about test automation portfolio. So she was like, well, developers are asked to give examples of their work at interviews. So why wouldn't a test automation person give examples of their code too?
Yeah.
But what brilliant idea. Like it just made so much sense to me, and I never considered it before. So when I've had bits of downtime, I've been trying to work on this portfolio. So having a few different things. So one was Postman, one was something in Java, one was Tycho and Gauge, and just little small examples of using different, like you say, using different tools. It's not that scary if you have the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
You find that you can switch to this stuff. And yeah, and then I thought, I'm going to use Selenium 4 because Angie's been talking about it loads and it looks like it's got some fun new features. And I thought, I'm just going to try that. And then, yeah, I tried to use that with a new Edge driver because I got Chrome driver to work really quickly. And then I was like, how hard could it be to use Edge driver, this new Chromium Edge driver? It was really hard when you don't know what you're doing. And when I find sometimes with tutorials, they date really quickly. So often the information that you find on them isn't correct anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Selenium 4 is obviously brand new. So there's a lot of articles which ask you to install things and do things that you don't have to do. And I thought, well, I've solved this. I was pretty proud of myself that I managed to get over it on my own. I'll just make a quick, this is what I did video. And actually it was probably better than if I'd have really prepared and structured it and because I think you can overthink things sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
Certainly in my personality to do that. And sometimes like it's just about helping somebody else and they don't need it to be perfect. They just need
it to work.
Yeah, they need it to work.
And sometimes it gives them like a boosting because we're real people. We aren't perfect. We aren't going to do everything perfectly. So having a flaw is human. That's what makes us human. So and I think I watched it and I was like, go Beth, go, you're doing really great. So
did you like it? Oh,
yeah, I think you were using C#.
Yes,
I haven't used C# in years. So like,
again, I'm doing it from a TAU course, and it's like it's great because people are available. So the guy that did the TAU course, I'm sending him updates on what I'm doing, and Carlos Kidman, and he's chatting to me about it, and it's like it's so lovely. There's this community that want to help you, and I think one of the major lessons that I've learned over the past year is be honest about what your skills are and trying to learn, and nobody will knock you for saying I'm not an expert at this but I want to learn about this thing. You know, they will really try and encourage you, and it's not the case that to be a public speaker you have to have a perfect level of knowledge. Like, not the case. You can say, as long as you quantify it and say, this is my experience based on the fact I'm learning this stuff, it's fine. You know, people want to hear that because it mirrors their experience. And, you know, not everyone can be an expert in everything. And I think it's good to be able to learn from people who are themselves learning, because they've often been through exactly the same pain as you. You think you're the only one that's struggling with this stuff. No, no, everybody's struggling, same as you. And then you can all kind of celebrate the wins together when you do eventually get over the hump, and you know you will. I think it's so easy to give up.
And with being a beginner, it's important to put that learning material out there, because there's always going to be someone learning as well, and from somebody that may be an expert, they may forget certain things that you need to do first. They may assume that you have certain knowledge, and then they'll just dive right in, and you're like, whoa, how did we get here? So you just learning something as well, you know that, okay, I have to do this little bit first before I start making these big steps, and you'll have that in your tutorial or video that you do, and people will appreciate that. And having your perspective and your unique voice is always good to put out there as well. So yeah,
I can't. Yeah, I think yesterday I'm just talking about Angie way too much, but she did the keynote at Agile TD yesterday, and it was all about games and strategies for games that can translate into testing. And one of the things she said that everyone in the room in the chat was like, how has no one ever phrased it like this before? Because it makes so much sense. Is if you were playing a game for the first time, you wouldn't expect everyone to be a perfect player.
Yeah.
So why do we put that expectation on testers to know everything about automation on day one? Like that's not reasonable. It's not fair. You should expect that you're a beginner to start with, and then you'll learn some things to be intermediate, and then you'll learn some things to be expert. Don't skip steps. Don't feel like you have to jump, because you will not learn the things that are the fundamentals that will make the stuff you do at the end so much easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true. I think it's so true. To look at the commercial way of doing it, or the most expedient and the cleanest code and all this stuff. And I think all of that is really important when you're doing it kind of as part of a massive professional project. But most testers that are working in environments like that have a lot of help and support from people that have done it before, that have a lot of experience and can help. And I think when people don't have those folk to help them, it's easy to feel like I'll never get there.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, so I need to give up because I'll never do it. And I think just start small, just take advantage of the amount of free resources that you've got. Just try and do little tiny bits, try and write a little bit of test code, and then learn to refactor it, and then try something else and just do little bits, and then look back and think, wow, I've actually gone from no coding knowledge whatsoever to being able to have a POM, a nice structure to my framework, and I understand what that means. And it just really stuck with me, that one.
Yeah. I completely agree. I remember when I just started writing code, my selectors were horrible. I didn't have any page objects, stuff like that. I didn't know what page objects were until you just wrote a one file, and it ran and clicked on the element and it asserted something, and you're like, okay, cool. And then, as you said, you start to refactor that code. So you start to create page objects. You start to find better locators that aren't going to break with each new release, things like that. And we can't know everything. You won't ever know everything, and that's okay. You just have to decide what you want to learn. What little small thing am I going to learn this month or this week? And focus on that and improve on that. And then you can tackle something else, because I don't know everything. I hear people talking about performance testing, and I've done a little, but I'm no expert. And they're using these amazing tools, and everyone is talking about Cypress, and there are so many different tools, Java, C#. There are so many different tools, languages, and it's really impossible to know it all. But you just have to understand that, accept that, and just start your own journey.
But it's so great to be working in an industry where you're going to always be learning.
Yeah.
I worked, probably my worst ever job was working in a factory, and they made like fish fingers, right? So these, they weren't, I guess they were like breaded bits of mashed up fish and mashed potato in the shape of a fish. So came out of this machine, and I would spend 10 hours a day straightening these fish, and my brain just turned to mush. It was awful because there's nothing to learn. You learn everything you need to know in 5 minutes, and then your brain is just left to, to rot. Whereas in testing, there's always some new challenge. There's always something new to try, and there's always people to help you too. Even if you don't have that help where you work, just reach out to people, because they're so happy to help people learn and kind of be part of the community. So what would you obviously we're both doing test Flix, right?
Yes, we are.
That's this month, later.
Yes, the 28th.
Right. And yours is on creating a test automation strategy?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is that all done? You've done the pre-record?
Yeah, I've done it. So I did it the same time I was submitting, because I was like, okay, it's 8 minutes. It took me an hour to do it or more. But I was like, okay, I need to get this out the way or else I'm going to be down to the last minute. So like, I find getting things done immediately that I know I need to do really helps, because then I have more free time to do other things or to just take a break and sleep.
I'm totally the same. I get things done immediately and then I can enjoy it. So I'm really looking forward to test Flix, because sometimes I think even with a pre-recorded talk, you've got the Q&A at the end, and that can be a little bit scary, and you've got to make sure that your equipment's all working and that your internet's fine, and there's things that can go wrong. And I think from what I've read, the impression I get from the test Flix thing, which I think is a really cool idea. So 100 talks that you can just binge watch them one after the other. There's no Q&A. You're just there with the content. You don't have to wait. You can watch the talks that you want. I just think that's a really nice idea.
It is.
And it's stress-free, because I've done my talk. It's there. I can't change it. I'm just going to be able to enjoy that now. So yeah, that'd be really good. But what else do you have kind of coming up, or what are your goals maybe for 2021 for things that you want to push yourself to do?
Yeah, but definitely more talks, because I started out a bit late this year. Obviously, the conference season is October, November, and you have to apply for those earlier up in the year. So trying to get some of those conference opportunities. So I've started already sending out call for papers, stuff like that. And I want to spend more time on my YouTube. So I have kind of been neglecting that. I had a goal of like 2 videos a week. Maybe I've been putting out 1 a month now. So I'm trying to get back.
I'm the same with my blog. Yeah.
I have these ideas that I'm like, okay, this is going to be a really good topic, but finding the time, but I have to like tell myself that it's okay. You don't have to do all the things at once. Sometimes it's quality over quantity, and try to get that quality of work out instead of having 100 things out. Really provides an impact where persons are going to be like, every time I see something from Beth or Julia, it's of an amazing quality and standard. So I know that whatever they put out, I'm going to be able to learn from it. So having that in mind, instead of being like, okay, I need to put out all of these videos, because all of this that I'm doing is outside of work. I still have my work. I still need to spend time with my family. I still have to cook and wash and do all of those.
Next year, you're going to be traveling the world as well, so you'll have even less time.
Yeah.
Flights that you'll make. I was hoping to do so much traveling this year. Well, not a bit. So yeah, I'd like to travel too next year. I'd like to combine it and go to my first international test conference. That would be really cool.
That would be really good.
Berlin. I've always wanted to go to Berlin because it seems like a real tech. Like it's sort of I kind of think of it as the Silicon Valley of Europe. Berlin it just seems really cool and techy, and I think it'd be great.
So that would be great. Let's just hope that everything settles down and gets back to normal.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I think that's it. It's been really good talking with you.
Yeah, you
I really enjoyed
really
it.
Good. I hope. Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed that next year will be a little bit easier, but continue to embrace the positives of the situation that we're in now. And I think you've had a brilliant 2020, and you're on a lot of people's radar now that you weren't last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you too. You too. You're just there, and I'm so excited to hear your talk that you're gonna do. Even though you didn't plan for it, it just happened. But it's because you've put in the work and you've decided that this is what you're gonna go for. And I'm really happy and excited for you, and I can't wait to see all that you're going to bring. Hopefully, you start putting out more YouTube.
Oh, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think the one you did was great. So just more advice and tips like that, I think, because persons learn differently. So maybe someone that doesn't really want to read a blog, watching a quick 5-minute YouTube video can be really helpful to them. So I'm looking forward to see what you do. I'm excited.
Okay, deal. I'll have a think. Brilliant. Lovely talking to you.
Okay, all right. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.